Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. So it is now day 4 of my 13 days of Halloween, where I have locked myself inside the Asylum. So I'm watching 13 days straight of Asylum films. This time around, even though it's only day 4, we already have our second found footage film, and we are going to be talking about The Bell Witch Haunting from 2013. And this one, which I didn't even realize until just now, was actually directed by Glenn Miller, who directed Zombies, which I talked about yesterday. So a return director and a return subgenre of horror, one of my favorites, the found footage genre. So you can see here that the box says America's most famous haunting. Did you know about the Bell Witch Haunting? Because I sure didn't. Maybe it's popular in Tennessee. I don't know, but I'd never heard of it. But so with Paranormal Entity, back on day 1, I said that I liked that movie more than Paranormal Activity. Can I say the same about Bell Witch Haunting? Well, let's talk about it. If you guys are enjoying these 13 days, please give it a like down below. That really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right into day 4, where I review The Bell Witch Haunting from 2013. So with The Bell Witch Haunting, which I do own on a physical form, and so I did watch this one on DVD, and I will mention there are no special features outside of some other Asylum trailers on this DVD, so no real reason to own the physical version of this if you're just wanting to watch it. But with this one, we are following a pretty typical paranormal found footage film. We follow this family who has recently moved into this house. There is a 4-person family, the parents and the 2 siblings. The brother and sister don't really get along that well. The brother's name is Brandon, which obviously I remember for obvious reasons, and then the sister's name is Dana. They seem to be very close in age. I don't know if an age is ever given. We start the movie, we are at a birthday party. I'm guessing he's probably like 16, 17, somewhere around there. The daughter is right around that same age, and so he receives a new camera for his birthday, and it's this like stupidly expensive, like a professional style camera, and that's what the majority of this film is done with, is that camera that he receives for his birthday. But they have just moved into this new house, and it's going to be, they find out as the movie progresses, that they now live on the land where the Bell Witch was known to haunt. And so that's kind of where the story is set, at least, and it takes off from there. The other thing I want to mention is that most of the activity is put on the sister, and so she really deals with it the most. She has all these night terrors. The parents, are constantly waking up in the middle of the night to her screaming. Her friends are over often. I think it's like her cousin and then her friend's cousin, because I believe where they moved is close to their relatives, and that's how they have friends in the area. Obviously they're new to the city, but if they have a cousin, that's who they're hanging out with, and then through them they have their friends. And so outside of the core nuclear family of the film, you do have those friends, and they are basically there for fodder for the Bell Witch. One thing I thought was hilarious about this is the fact that there seemed to be only one cop in the entire city, because every time we would go to like dash cam footage or the body cam footage, there would be this one cop's name, and he would be the same cop throughout the entire film. I thought that was silly, because he was basically dealing with this entire family and their neighbors he had to deal with at a certain point. So I thought that was a little bit silly that it was just one cop. He doesn't even have a partner. He's just one dude driving around finding these weird people walking around in the middle of the night, like seeing a girl eat a raccoon, like just weird stuff for this one cop to have to deal with. But outside of that, so like I said, the friends and the extra characters are basically fodder, and that works well for me. I don't need to really get to know them all that well. It just makes sense. They are friends, they are young. I don't want to see them die necessarily, but the Bell Witch has other plans, and so that's why they're there. Don't add a whole lot of depth, and you're not going to get a lot of depth in this at all. In fact, one of my major complaints is that they introduced this idea of something with the father, because obviously most of the activity, like I said, is directed at the daughter, but they'd have something with the father, but then they kind of just drop that and they don't come back to it. And I thought that was disappointing, because I wanted to know more about, or at least see what they could do with that, and they just decide to forget about it and move on. I did like how our main character, Brandon, the brother, handled the situation, because it felt very realistic. He was kind of laughing it off and just saying, it could be mice, it could be rats, whatever it is. This house is kind of crappy anyway, which blew my mind because the house was gorgeous. So the fact that he was saying it was crappy was just beyond me. But anyway, the fact that he was just kind of laughing it off and it didn't seem to be that important to him until it gets later in the film, I thought was really a smart choice, because he's just a teenage boy. These things are not necessarily going to he's not going to show them affecting him in the way that the daughter has in this film. And so I like that part of it. I thought that made sense and just made the characters feel a little bit more realistic. Speaking of the realism here, I think the acting for the most part does a really good job of keeping things grounded and making it realistic. Where I think things go off are with some of the weird special effects that they toss in here. My biggest complaint with this is that it feels unbalanced. There are some moments that are genuinely creepy. I was tense. Again, I said it before, the first person camera style, it always gets me, that first person view. It doesn't matter what movie it is, it's going to affect me, and it did in this movie as well. And I think they made, intelligent use of it to bring those scares at a good pace, and just giving that overall creepy atmosphere I thought was done really well. But then there's just some silly moments that happen throughout. Like at one point, there's a character looking underneath like their deck. He gets up to walk away, and then there's like a hand that like reaches out. It's obviously a CGI hand that like reaches out to grab him as he's walking away. And it's just at the last second, it's just like, that was just goofy. It was silly. Like that doesn't help add to the creepy factor that they're trying to go for in the film. And so those kind of moments, which I don't want to give too many away for, I don't want to talk spoilers at all. And so those creepy moments happen, or those goofy moments happened a little bit too often along with the creepy moments. And so it just felt a little unbalanced, which I thought was a little bit disappointing. I don't want to get too far into this, I guess. I will just say one more thing is that there were no timestamps on some of the security footage that we were watching, and so that was a little bit difficult to follow, I guess. I wasn't sure if I was looking at the next day, a couple hours later, maybe a week later. Sometimes I just couldn't tell. They did have like intertiles that came up in the middle that showed the date and the time, but at points those went away, especially toward the latter half of the film, and I couldn't tell like when person A disappeared and then person B disappeared, like what was the time difference between those? I didn't really know. And so that was one thing I would have loved to have seen added, was like timestamps and date stamps on some of this footage. The only time we get it is with the cop, and so that does set you, in the a time when you get to them, but the cop footage was not that prevalent throughout, and so I did kind of lose track of things a little bit as it went on, but that's not really a huge negative. It's just something I felt as I was watching the film. So with The Bell Witch Haunting, I mean, this is not a bad movie by any stretch. It is uneven. It definitely could have been better than it was if some of those goofy moments were taken out. And I don't mean the moments that were intentionally funny. The moments that were supposed to bring, kind of that lightness to that moment, that scene. I'm not talking about those. I thought those were okay. It's just those silly moments with like CGI additions that were clearly done in post that just weren't needed. They could have kept what they had and it still would have been effective and creepy, arguably creepier than what they end up with. And so while I think this one is good, and yes, I probably do enjoy this one more than the original Paranormal Activity, which I want to clarify, I just don't like the original PA all that well, but I love the sequels, at least up until a point. I like Paranormal Activity 2 and 3 are excellent. I love those, and those are definitely better movies than The Bell Witch Haunting. But and frankly, Paranormal Activity 1, the original, is better than this from virtually every standpoint. But when it comes to my personal enjoyment, I enjoyed watching this movie more than I enjoyed watching Paranormal Activity, the original. And so, I don't know, I thought it was pretty good. Comparing it to Paranormal Entity, it felt very similar vibes to it in kind of moments and beats. But I do think I enjoyed this one more just because it was a little bit creepier. It was a little bit too slow at specific moments, especially at the end. It just took forever. Once like the very final climax is happening, it just took forever to finally get to those end credits, so to speak. It's a found footage film, so there's not really credits, but you know what I mean. And so it was just uneven is the best word to describe it. I would put it, maybe just a step above Paranormal Entity, but I do think this one is worth watching. You don't have to own it by any stretch, but if you like paranormal found footage films, then you might find something to like like here if you're willing to give some of the goofy CGI work a pass. And so I am going to give The Bell Witch Haunting from 2013 3 out of 5 stars. And yes, if you're paying attention, that is now 3/4 of these that I've given 3 out of 5 stars. But that's okay. I mean, maybe that'll be something I learn by the end of this, is that these movies aren't necessarily bad, they're just not great. But who knows? We have a lot of different genres, a lot of different styles to talk about here before these 13 days are up. So who knows where the rest of the week will take us. But those were my thoughts on The Bell Witch Haunting. All right, so day 4 is in the books. 8 more days to be locked inside the asylum, and I'm having a blast, and that's really why I did this. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this series, but let me know your thoughts on this one down below if you've seen it, and if not, is this something you might want to check out now? Let me know down in the comments below. I always appreciate that support. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video, please give it a like down below. That really does help me out, and like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, video games, graphic novels, manga. If it's media related, I'm interested in it, and if you are too, you might consider subscribing. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.